And we're live. Hello and welcome. Now, could you give me a quick hello via the chat box just to make sure that you can see me and you can hear me? Because sometimes the tech gremlins like to come out and play. I'm so thrilled to get to share this masterclass with you today. Whether you're joining us live or whether you're watching the replay, I really hope you're going to find it useful. And I'm so excited. So you're inspired. You're thinking of writing a non-fiction book. I'd love to know via the comments, what would you love to write about? And where in the world are you joining us from today? So when I've got some hellos and there's about a 30-second lag on the system, then we'll dive in and go live. And I'm going to set up the backup recording just for a moment, just in case the gremlins do come out to play. One moment. There we go. Yay, and we're in. So, fantastic. So my name is Claire Yosa, and I am the author of 4 books, currently writing my 5th. I'm a mentor to passionate world changers. I used to be an engineer. I'm an NLP trainer, meditation teacher, yoga teacher, and a busy mum. And you can see some of my books behind me here. And when I published my first book back in 2008, I have to confess I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had to kind of do my research and pretty much make it up as I went along. And I made some mistakes, and there are some things I got right. And over the course of the years, I've refined the process. I've learned about what works and what doesn't. And most importantly, I've learned how to get myself out of the way so I can create a book that my readers really love. And my books are my best marketing. Not only do they help me to reach people that I could never reach through my website because they're not going to search Google for me, but it helps me connect with people across the world at a really deep level, because when somebody takes the time to read your book all the way through and then they want to connect with you, they're well on their way to becoming super fans. And this is what I dream of for you, is get your book out there, because we've all got our excuses, we've all got the things we're scared of, and this series of 5 webinars is going to take you through some of the most common mistakes, some simple things you can do to help you get past your blocks and barriers, and some stuff you can do to inspire a tribe of hungry readers even before you've published the book. So if that's what you'd like, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like a high five. I'd like a yes. And I can see from the comments that you guys can hear me. That's fantastic. So I'd like to dive in and get started, and keep coming in by the comments. If you've got questions, if there's anything that needs clarifying, or any light bulbs that come up, yes, I've got some yeses, thank you. Any light bulbs that come up, let me know. I'm really happy to make this interactive. High five, thank you. Love you guys via the comments. So let's dive in, and I'm going to do a bit of this by PowerPoint and a bit of this face-to-face so that you stay nice and awake. Grab your pens and paper. There is a lot of stuff for you here today. I'm going to rattle through it, so you might want to watch again, but take notes on anything that resonates for you. So here goes. Yay. Now, hopefully you can see the presentation slide here. So today's masterclass is if you secretly want to publish your nonfiction book, how to avoid the #1 mistake that would mean nobody wants to buy it. Because we've all been there, yeah? We've all been in the position where there's a book that looks great, but it really doesn't resonate. And you see the books selling well that might surprise you. So what I want to achieve today is helping you to really create the book that your customers will love. So I'm curious, okay? Do you secretly yearn to write your nonfiction book? Do you know in your heart that you'll regret it if you don't, no matter how many excuses you've got flying around? Maybe you don't know where to start. That's incredibly common. Maybe you're too busy. We all feel too busy to write a book. It feels like such a huge project. And I've got a time masterclass for you coming up very soon. Is how to magically make more time. So if not having time to write the book is the big deal for you, make sure you get that one. Maybe you're not convinced people would want to read what you've got to say. I hear this so often when I talk to entrepreneurs and business owners. Maybe you're scared of being criticized if people don't like it. Or you're not sure how to sell it. If there's a specific block that you've got about writing your book, let me know via the comments. And thank you to those of you who filled in the survey when you registered. Over the 5 webinars, I'm going to make sure I cover everything. So you're in the right place if any of those apply to you, because I know how it feels. I've been there. I've got the t-shirt. Yeah, I know how scary it can be. And over the 5 webinars, we're going to make really great progress on getting all of these things sorted so that if your heart's calling you to write your book, you can dive in and get started. Now, there's a great one that's come up via the comments, actually, and I'm not going to mention names on the comments because you guys deserve your privacy on the replay. Making and publishing books I can do, getting anyone to notice, that's hard. I'm so glad you've raised this one, because if you do a good handful of the 21 things on this masterclass today, you will find that people will notice. So I have got a promise to you today. I'm going to show you how to figure out what your dream customers would love you to write about so you can build a tribe of hungry readers even before you write your book. And it's never too late to start this, by the way. One of my favorites of my books is the one that sells the least, which is crazy. So I've actually gone back to the beginning and I'm running these processes now, even though the book's already published, to help more people find out about it and to help it go viral. And it's really working. So it's never too late or too early to start with these techniques. So what we're going to cover today, how to avoid the number one mistake. It means it doesn't matter how brilliant your book is, people might not want to buy it. Or it might just sit on their shelf and gather dust. 21 ways to get inside your customer's head so that they will think you are mind reading and they will love you for it. And these, I'm covering 21 because I don't know what your business is and I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know what you love doing. I don't know what you hate doing. There will be a good handful in here for everybody that you will enjoy and love. Then we're also going to talk about how these 21 ideas can work in your marketing. So you're getting inside your customer's head, and we're going to spin that round of how can this help you get the word out so that people are hungry to buy even before you publish. And then if you stay with me right to the end, I'm going to be sharing some not to be missed insights right at the end. I used to be head of market research at Dyson before I set up my own business. The kind of stuff we're covering in this webinar used to cost us hundreds of thousands of pounds to do. With modern technology and social media, you can do each of these for free. So I'm going to share with you at the very end some top tips from my lifetime as head of market research on how to ask the questions in a way that get you the answers you need. And that will make sense if you hang around till the end. So who am I? Some of you know me already, and hello, I can see some well-loved names here in the chat and in the attendees. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Claire Yosa. I'm a mentor to passionate world changers, which means if you want to make a difference in the world and you've got inside blocks that are getting in the way, I can hold your head underwater and we can deal with them. So you can get on with making the difference you're here to make. I'm a certified NLP trainer, have been since 2003, which means I know all about the games your mind loves to play. I've published 4 books. My 5th book, Dare to Dream Bigger, is coming out this summer. I'm a formally trained meditation and now yoga teacher. So I love demystifying the ancient wisdom. I used to be an engineer, so I love turning it into practical common sense. I'm also a busy mom of 3 young boys. So when I talk about these techniques, please don't think that I have 80 hours a week spare to work on this stuff. These techniques can work for you whatever amount of time you've got. And you'll probably have seen me around. This is just in the last year, some of the places I've been interviewed. So it's confession time. I am so not sitting in an ivory tower. I still freak out about writing books. Okay. As an NLP trainer, I've been trained how to teach. So for me, the process of how to go from an idea to a step-by-step process is actually quite straightforward. And it's something I love teaching people. And my inner engineer helps make it logical. Every time I publish a book, it feels like a statement in the forever. And it makes me feel like I'm standing in front of the headmaster's office and I'm not sure whether I'm going to be told I've done a great job or I'm going to be put on detention. So I still freak out about writing books. It's completely okay to feel nervous or scared or excited. However you're feeling, and I'd love to hear from you via the comments. If you're live, Type now. If you're watching on the replay, let me know in the comments below. How do you feel about writing a book? I'd love to hear from you. So I still manage it, clearly. And I want to share with you over the 5 masterclasses, the secrets, the shortcuts, the insights that I've learned since 2008 with my first book and 2002 when I started my mentoring and my NLP journey, because I want you to be able to do this too. There's no reason why you can't. So you should have had the worksheet that came with the masterclass. It's really worth going through these questions. If you want to share any of the answers with me now, you can via the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't gone through them yet, do take time after this masterclass. Why do I want to write a book? And what might happen if I don't write my book? Sometimes we need to use a bit of leverage with ourselves to actually get these things to happen, to get the book bumped up the to-do list. Where am I stuck? What are my questions? And what are some of the amazing things that could happen if I do write my book? So what might happen if I don't write it? Yeah, what am I going to lose if I don't do it? And what are some of the amazing things that could happen? What could I gain if I do this? What difference could I make? This is really, really important. It's a starting point for getting your book written. But before you dive in, I really want to share with you today the mistake I see so many nonfiction authors making, which would mean that no one wants to buy their book and they don't realize they're doing it. And it's not just books, it's online courses, it's seminars, it's webinars. Most of us don't realize we're doing it. So do you want to know what it is? The number one mistake I see day in, day out. They write the wrong book. They write the book that they want to write. Why is this a problem? Because when you're standing in a place of mastery, when you're an expert, when you know your stuff inside out, then you're not standing where your customers are. You're standing at the end of the journey. If you want them to be able to take the journey to get a particular outcome, you need to start writing the book that they need where they're starting from, not the book that your peers and colleagues would love to read. So the recipe for success is write the book that they want by giving them what they need. So this is the real thing. This is with market research. You're looking at what people want. You've got a solution, you know what they need. The two are often different. So many authors write the book that people need, not the book that people want. And I know because I've done it myself with courses and workshops. You need to go back and stand in the shoes of the person at the beginning of the process you're going to teach them through, or the transformation or experience you want them to have through your book. And write the book from that place, not from where you are now. It's the biggest mistake I see people making. It means you don't have rapport with your readers. It means it seems unattainable. It means it seems too difficult. It means that they will just look at it and go, well, that's not me. You need to go back and stand in their shoes. And that is what this masterclass will show you how to do. So the $64 million question is, how do you figure out which book your dream customers want you to write? Well, so here's a real bummer. Please excuse my English. This is from many, many years in market research. You can't just ask them. You can't just go to your readers or your customers and say, which book would you like me to write for you? Because you're going to get rabbit in headlights. They probably don't know. So back in my engineering days, I used to work for Ford. And when the car was first invented, if you'd said to people, what do you want? I've got this engine and it's got some wheels and contraptions. What do you want? People would have said, I want a faster horse. People don't understand what their problems are. It's very rare in research for somebody to be able to articulate clearly what it is that they need. They can tell you where they're stuck, but they can't necessarily say, I wish you would write this book. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to give you step by step the insider secrets that I've been using for well over a decade, so you can figure this out for yourself and for your customers. So we've looked at how to avoid the number one mistake. Any questions so far, or are you ready to dive in with the 21 free ways to get inside your customer's head? And we're going to cover the marketing at the same time. And remember, at the very end, I'm going to share with you not to be missed market research tips. So I got a quick question for you first. Let me know via the comments. Why do we read books? Why do we read books? When you think about books that inspire you, that somebody just like you has had the courage to write, they've taken the time, they've had the clarity, they've got the support network they needed, they felt strongly enough about making a difference in your life that they put pen to paper or finger to keyboard. Why do we write? Why do we read books? And one of the most common answers I get when we're talking about mainly nonfiction, but if we look at all books, it's escapism. It's an experience, it's telling a story, it's taking us on a journey, it's creating some kind of transformation or shift. And why would your dream customers read your book? Now, one of the things that came up a lot in the surveys is, well, who am I to write a book? And what can I say that hasn't already been said 50,000 times by 20 million other people? There will be something in there. Why would your dream customers read your book? What is it about your message and the way you present it and the way you teach that would get them excited? Why would they read your book? So we're going to do 21 ways for you to find out. And as we go through these, feel free to let me know via the comments, any questions and any feedback. They're going to help you hugely with your marketing too. And as I've said, this is the kind of stuff that back in my head of market research days used to cost over £100,000 for a single survey. What we're looking at here is what I would call the quick and dirty end of market research, but it's more than enough to give you a steer on which direction you need to take. You don't need to spend 6 figures anymore to find out what your customers are thinking. These routes are all free. So I'm going to start with the easy stuff, which all of us can do. And I want to start, before we dive in, remember here, why would your customers read your dream book? Have you noticed it's about why, not what? And yet so many of us, when we go to write a book or a course or a workshop, we start with the what. When you start with the why, this is a gem for you from market research, people buy on emotion and then they justify through facts. So the why are you writing the book? Why would they want to read it? This is what's so important. The what is almost secondary, but the why needs to flow all the way through your book. So the easy stuff. Here are 10 things that you could do today, excuse me, with very little effort. So I'm going to come off screen share so you can have a break from death by PowerPoint. Yay, I'm back. So number 1, look at the questions that you are most commonly asked, either by your customers or by your friends that you love answering, where you can see in their faces that you've made a difference with those answers. Or maybe if you're looking at your clients, it's the problems they come to you with most often. I was working with an Australian dentist on this last week, and he was looking at writing his first book because he wanted to establish himself in the local area as being an expert. And a book is an amazing way of doing that. And we were looking at ways that he could write the book and also have it linking to videos to help reinforce his message. He said, but what am I going to write about? What do I know? And I asked him, what is the stuff you have to tell almost every client that frankly you're bored of having to tell and you wish you could just say, go and look at this, yeah? And he said, well, how to properly clean your teeth so you don't end up with gum disease and decay. I said, okay, are there maybe 10 different things or 10 different stages that you could break that down into? And could you give them a bit of a spiel at the beginning about why it's important and how they can contact you if they want to come and work with you on tooth health and oral hygiene? Well, yeah. Okay, are there some simple videos that you could create that you could link to from chapters in the book? Yeah. So that was a really simple thing for him. People who are working in the craft sector, for example, might have a particular problem that people have when they're designing the things they're creating that they could solve. You might find if you're a coach, you've got clients who come to you and they're always stuck on the same thing. And it would be brilliant to magnetize clients to you who've already dealt with that thing so you can take them on to the next level. So then you use your book as a funnel. I got a lovely comment here, teeth for dummies. Yeah, I'll have to suggest that to him. I don't know how his customers would feel about that, but it's a great one. So look at the questions you're asked most often. And look at when you're in social situations as well, not just at work. If you're on social media, look at the questions that come up with people that you love answering, that you can't help but type answers to because you really feel passionately about helping people with this. When you know what the questions are, you can decode them to find out what the blocks are. And if you can solve those problems with your book, then people will want to read it and they will recommend it to their friends. So number 2, if you have your own email list already, is send a "could I ask a favor" email. Don't use this one too often. It works every 3 or 4 months. Could I ask a favor? I'm going to be writing about such and such. What are your big blocks? What are your worries about this? What keeps you awake at night on that topic? If you could wave a magic wand, what might you shift? So could I ask a favor is a brilliant way of connecting with people on your newsletter list who are already reading what you're sending out there and finding out from them. And you can even get them excited. I'm going to be writing about this for my next book. Would you like to be interviewed? Would you like to be a case study? Would you like an advanced copy? So you can make this quite interactive and start building some gentle excitement. Number 3, on your website is write a relevant article and put a couple of questions in there for people to answer via the comments. And don't ever do more than 1 or 2 questions for this. People get overwhelmed. And you might want to make it quite an edgy article, quite an opinion piece where you might provoke some response, because getting people to comment on website articles these days can be tough. But if you write something that's taking a strong position or fixing a problem, and it doesn't matter if it's something that might get covered in your book, people won't mind. They won't remember having read it on your blog. They won't think badly. If anything, they'll be pleased. They need the message more than once. Ask the questions in the article. Look at the feedback underneath. People who take the time to comment on your website either have an opinion about what you wrote or they're really highly engaged, in which case they're ideal people to read your book. Number 4 is one we often overlook. Look through your website at existing articles that are on a similar topic to what you think you'd like to write your book on, and look at the comments. And people won't be saying necessarily in the comments, I've got this problem and I need you to write about it. But when they're putting comments in, you can ask yourself the question, what might be going on in their world for them to make this comment? What might be under the surface of these words? What's the issue that's keeping them stuck there? How could I help them with this? Start decoding, play detective, get excited, follow the comment trails. And if you're quite new and you don't have your own website yet, look at articles on other people's websites and look at the comment trails there, and you'll be amazed at how much information people reveal just through their comments on a website and how much you can decode. The other really useful thing when you're looking at comments on a website is it gives you clues into the kind of language that your customers are using. Are they excited by achieving something, or do they want to avoid failure? Yeah. Do they go into huge detail and write sort of 20-line comments, or do they prefer the overview first and just write a few lines? I run a program called the Author Intensive, and on this we go into that in quite a lot of detail, is how you can decode the linguistic structures. But that's well beyond this masterclass today. But just start noticing, what are the kind of words they're using? How do they describe their stuckness? How do they phrase things? And then you can start keeping a log of these, use them in your book, use them in your marketing materials. Your customers are telling you how they need you to speak to them. So number 5 on social media is post single questions. If you've got a specific question, post them, but only one. People are so quickly overwhelmed. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, then photos work really well for this. If you're on Twitter, you could use a photo or just that 140 characters. And start asking them, okay, say for example, what's stopping you from writing your book? Yeah. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you do about creating your book this year? This is where you can start decoding and just look at the answers. And you don't have to fix everything. You don't have to dive in there for them right then. You just thank them for responding. And now there's 3 top tips I've got on this slot. The first one is have a clear call to action. Okay, don't just post an image, for example, that's got a question in it. Make sure there's something in your comment that goes with that image that says, I want to hear from you via the comments, so people don't just think it's something to share. I know that sounds really obvious, but you would be amazed by the difference that makes. The second one is, before you take to heart anything that anybody says on any of these comments, make sure they're actually your target audience. It's amazing how often people who comment the most actually would never buy from you. They're enjoying the fight and the friction. So take everything with a pinch of salt. Try it on for size. Does this feel like a comment my dream customer would make? Don't believe it just because it was on social media. And the third thing, for each of these steps so far, give people a clear way of staying in touch. Otherwise, you're wasting and missing an opportunity. Maybe it's, you get my newsletter, or I'm going to write a book on this. If you want to hear when it comes out, let me know, come and join my group, whatever. Let them have a way of staying in touch, because not everybody will, but you might as well start collecting the contact details and building the relationships while you're at this exploratory stage. It makes your book marketing much easier later on. So any questions so far? Anything that you think, yep, I can do that? Let me know via the comments. If you're watching the replay, let me know via the discussion. So number 6, this is one people don't often think about, is ask your peers. Okay, so for example, if you are a coach, you might have friends who are clinical psychologists or psychotherapists. You can chat with them. Okay, they're not competition to you. You can ask them, when we're talking about this topic, what kind of things are your clients coming up with? Where are they stuck? Look at where you hang out with your peer group and ask them what they think about their clients. Now, their dream clients might not be yours, but they might give you insights that you wouldn't otherwise have thought of, and they might spark creativity and inspiration for you. So number 7 is Instagram, which I've given a point all on its own because it is so visual and it's so fast moving. It is great for quick answers. So for example, in the Dare to Dream Bigger book, I've been using Instagram and other bits of social media where I'm thinking, I really want to understand where somebody might be stuck on that and how I can help them unpick it. Put something up on Instagram. Within 10 minutes, you'll have answers. Again, they might not be your exact dream customers, but it's really good for fast feedback, particularly if your customers are visual thinkers and they enjoy that kind of thing. If your customers are hanging out on Pinterest, you can use that too. For me, working with world changers, Pinterest isn't such a big thing. It's more about sharing rather than taking action. The other place I find incredibly useful is LinkedIn and in LinkedIn groups. So you've got so many different ways you can reach your customers, whether you want to dive deep or whether you just want a quick finger in the air. What do people think about this? Does this make sense to them? So as I say, be aware of who you're talking to. You need to be really clear about who do I want to read my book. This is something that a lot of us struggle with, is we want to write a book that appeals to everyone. But you need to niche, because nobody likes to feel like they're getting a round robin letter. If you want your book to be a huge success, you need to imagine you're writing to one person, because then it will resonate, then you will connect, you'll start to build that relationship. Really think. It doesn't have to be the way it used to be classically with marketing. It's an ABC1, C2, 30-year-old with 2 children and half a dog. It's more about attitude. Where are they stuck in life? What are their dreams? What are their hopes? What are the secret fears that they don't even tell their best friends or their partner? If they could wave a magic wand, what would they change? What do they love doing? Think about that person. I've got exercises we use in Author Intensive that dive deeply, but you can already get a really good grip on that. And then when you're having these discussions in social media, try the stuff on for size. Would that person think that, feel that, believe that, be stuck on that? And it's okay to let go of some of the feedback if it doesn't resonate. This is not about crowdsourcing your book. This is about using discernment, but helping yourself to uncode what's going on underneath the feedback and comments people are giving you. So another thing that you can do that's free is you can follow opinion leaders in the field that you want to write your book on. Now, that might feel a weird thing to do because there will be people out there who probably know more than you. There's a lot of people who know less than you, but look at who people are already following in your field. Why would you do this? Well, firstly, please do not copy. It's not big, it's not clever, it's not funny. And in these days of automated copyright checking software, you're likely to end up with a very scary letter from somebody's very expensive solicitor. And also your customers will know, yeah? What you're looking at is which of their posts are getting the most interaction? Which ones are being shared the most? What kind of comments are people writing? Are there problems in there that you could, tone, that you could fit your book round? People who've already got a very big following are a free source of market research for you if their customers are like your customers. And it's not about competing. It's about how many different places can I get this information from so I get as wide a picture as possible. The one thing I say on that caveat is beware of what I call comparisonitis. Okay, it's very easy if you're hanging around in a space where there are people who know more than you do or who've gone further on the journey or they've got a bigger platform. This is not about you saying, well, I can't write my book because they're already talking about this. You have a unique voice. You have a unique journey you've taken. And your dream customers are not their dream customers. Unless you are clones who've been through an identical life, there will be people who really resonate with your message who wouldn't resonate with theirs. Comparisonitis is one of the biggest reasons why we don't get our books written. So please, if you're going to follow the opinion leaders, stop comparing yourself. So number 9, this is called desk research or secondary research in the market research field, is readily available information on the internet. So look at books that are on the topic that you'd love to write about and read the reviews. Go to Goodreads, go to Amazon, read the reviews. Notice what people, notice what people love. Notice what they complain is missing. Notice what they criticize. Again, a big bucket of salt goes on top of this, but it's amazing what you can discover. Yeah, you don't need to read those books, just read the reviews, and you'll find people saying, well, it was good on this, but oh, I wish that he or she had covered that point. Great, that needs to go in my book. Yeah, because I know loads about that, and I now know that it's a need that my dream customers have. Don't get bogged down in this too much, but you will be amazed at the inspiration you can glean from people's reviews on Amazon, Goodreads, Google, elsewhere. Then the other thing to do to see if there's a market for your book is to look at the bestseller lists on places like Amazon and see, you can roughly guess how many they're selling. See whether it's a busy category, see whether it's a dead category, see if there are any clear leaders. But do bear in mind that when you're looking at things like bestseller listings, most of them can be manipulated. Yeah, you can buy your way into the New York Times bestseller list. You can promote your way into an Amazon bestseller list, and you can, that's updated every hour. So all you need to do is get 10 people to buy your book in 10 minutes and suddenly you're number 1 in your category for the next hour. So beware of that, but it's really worth looking at it. Are people writing in this niche? Are people interested? Are people buying those books? Again, that can spark some inspiration for you, but beware of comparisonitis. So I'd love to know, any of these resonating for you so far? Any of them that you've tried out? Any tips, any hints that you'd like to share? Anything that you think, actually, I'm going to go and apply that this week? I'd love to hear from you via the comments. As I say, we've got about a minute's lag. I'll make sure I bring in any questions that come up. And then we're going to look again here. There you go. So we've done the easy stuff, which doesn't mean the rest of it's difficult. It's just it takes a little bit more effort and commitment. So a bit more effort. These are things that take a bit of planning, but they're still pretty easy to do. Are you ready? So, number 11 is create a survey and get it in front of your dream customers. Now, that might mean that you actually go out and physically hand something out if you're meeting them face to face in a group, or it might mean that you're using social media or your website or your email. Post a survey. And here are some top tips from having been head of market research. I remember when we were launching Dyson in America, we did an extremely expensive piece of market research. And then we actually went out to the States and did a lot of one-to-one work with people to understand how they felt about the product, how we might need to communicate the benefits, and how we might need to position it with them so that they understood what they were getting. And I remember it was almost one of the things when you're running a market research department is everybody wants their question in on the big bit of research. And there came a point for this online research where we had over 100 questions. Now, I knew that our dream customers were not 17-year-old or 15-year-old tech geeks who wanted to spend their whole time on the computer, and I knew that many questions would turn them off. Getting it down to a number of questions that meant it wouldn't trash the quality of our survey took an awful lot of negotiating. If you're creating a survey for your readers or for your customers, really keeping it short is what matters. It's easier to run 3 or 4 short surveys than one longer one. People switch off. Your completion rates will go down. People will just be ticking answers. 5 questions is great. 10 at a push if they know you or it's an interesting topic. And also make sure you've got a mix of questions that are maybe, those little tick boxes, kind of strongly agree, strongly disagree, and also open-ended questions. And we'll cover that at the end. I'm going to give you some more tips on that. You can use either replying to an email, you can use things like SurveyMonkey, you can use Google Forms, which is free. SurveyMonkey is also free up to a certain number of respondents. The key is to make sure that you keep it focused on one topic. People get confused. If you try and say, what are your problems on this and what are your problems on that? Firstly, there's a chance that you could leave them feeling pretty demoralized. I've got so many problems. And then they're definitely not going to want to buy your book. Secondly, it just confuses them and it will dilute the quality of responses that you get. But surveys are incredibly useful. So number 12 is in networking meetings. If you go to face-to-face networking and if your dream customers hang out there, forget about selling and ask questions. Be genuinely interested. My mentor tells a story about sitting in an airport once and there was going to be a 3-hour delay. And everybody was not very impressed. Everybody had kind of had enough and just wanted to get home or to their next destination. And he sat next to this person who was particularly grumbly. And he thought, well, okay, this waiting room is very, very full. I'm going to have to do something here. I can't move. We're at the gate. We're not allowed to go back. So I've got to stay here. I'm going to make the most of it. So he just started asking the person questions and listening. Really attentively listening, not kind of like to-do list in your head listening, really focused listening. And at the end of that time, the person had completely changed. They were no longer complaining. They were no longer grumbling. And they said to my mentor at the end, you're one of the most fascinating people I've ever met. My mentor had said almost nothing, but people really love to feel heard. If you can get face-to-face with your dream customers, ask them the questions that you might have asked in your survey and be genuinely interested in the answers, you'll be amazed at the information they will share with you. It's completely free and you will have made a friend and a fan for life. Then another thing you can do, and it's amazing how few people try this because it's a bit scary, but it doesn't need to be. If you love writing, get writing for newspapers, magazines, and websites. You would be amazed. It doesn't just have to be things like the Huffington Post. Find websites, newspapers, magazines that your readers and your customers love reading and pitch an article and make it an article that's kind of weighing up pros and cons maybe about the topic that's in your book or making suggestions. You'll be amazed at how many of these publications are actually really keen to get good quality content. They've got a lot of space to fill. And if you're offering it for free, for example, as well, then it's a win-win. And all you need to do is make sure there's a really strong call to action at the end to get people to contact you. What do you think about this article? Do you resonate with this? Give them a specific email address so you can close it down when it's done if you need to, if it gets spammy, but give them a way to get in touch with you, to connect. Because you're going to find a lot of people, if they take the time to go from a print magazine or from a website to getting in touch with you, then that means they're keen and it means what you've said resonates. Then ask them the questions. Make sure you capture their contact details because they're going to be some of the earliest readers of your next book. Now, this next one I love, number 14, is set up a quiz. I remember when I was a teenager reading those girl magazines, and every week there was a quiz of some form, and those little multi-choice quizzes that help you gain insight about yourself. And then when it was about 13, 14, I got passionate about psychology. Why did I study engineering? I used to love anything that helped me understand myself better. If you want, there's loads of free apps out there that will allow you to create a quiz on your website that then gives people feedback based on the answers they gave. So you're adding something of value. Make sure you capture their name and their email address so you can stay in touch. But also the quiz answers. Make sure you use one of the apps or plugins that allows you to have those answers, even if they're anonymous. You will gain so much data about where people are stuck if you design the quiz correctly. So it takes a bit more thinking, it takes a bit more planning, but it can bring you so much information to help you make the book really fix the problem that your customers feel they've got, using the language they need you to use in a way that resonates. And somebody who's taken the time to fill in a quiz, if you on the thank you page say something like, hey, I'm actually writing a book on this topic. Do you want to stay in touch and I'll let you know when it's published? Instant marketing. So another one you can do, number 15, if you're okay on video, get on YouTube, get on Periscope. Do short videos, short sessions about the topic you want to write about, covering different aspects. Finish with questions, get people to respond via the comments, have a clear call to action at the end so they can get your newsletter. Tell them you're going to write a book on it, yeah? If you did one of these a week, each week while you're writing the book on a different aspect, wherever you're up to writing your book, once you've got your structure done, if you did one of these each week on a different aspect, by the time you publish your book, just imagine how much feedback you'll have had, how much more relevant the book will be to your readers, and how many people will have signed up for your email newsletter so that you can tell them when the book is ready. And when you're ready, you can even get links in there so that they can go straight to pre-order it. Yeah, which I don't recommend doing until you're a long way through the writing process. But certainly in the last month or two, it's really worth doing that, is getting people to pre-order either direct through you or you can set it up through Amazon. Now, you might, what would I video about? I was talking the other day to a friend about, and present the problem and present the solution and ask people, is this something that resonates with you? How do you experience this problem? I would love to hear from you via the comments. What are your big questions? What are you going to use from this? You'll be amazed at the information you get. And as I say, make sure they have a way of staying in touch. If being on video is something that you really don't enjoy, then I've actually got a free training you can do. It's at www.freeperiscopetraining.biz. That's freeperiscopetraining.biz. It's a 7-day course that helps you to feel comfortable on camera, that helps you avoid the mistakes that make you look like a rookie, even though you're secretly a pro, and that help you to create videos that you'll actually be happy looking at again in 2 years' time. Because I've definitely been So that's freeperiscopetraining.biz. That will help you get more comfortable on video. Any questions so far? Any feedback? Let me know via the comments. As they say, I know we've got a bit of a lag here. So YouTube and Periscope and anywhere else that you want to stick your videos. Yeah, I found, I was on holiday just over a week ago and I met some lovely people, and one of them came up to me at breakfast the next morning and said, I YouTubed you last night, which is, it's always scary. It's that headmaster's office moment again. Now, having seen me on YouTube, and seeing that I could actually talk to a camera and I could string a sentence together gave me instant credibility in a way that a business card could never have done. If you want someone to take a leap and read your book, connecting with you face to face on something like YouTube or Periscope is a great way to start building that relationship and build your credibility. So number 16, if video isn't your thing, find out which podcasts are out there on your topic and approach somebody who hosts a good one and get interviewed. Yeah? Give them an angle, pick a chapter from your dream book and say, I want to talk about this to your readers, and this is why I think it's relevant. And I'd like to maybe give them a free something at the end that they can come and sign up for so that people come to your newsletter. Go and find those podcasts. It's actually really good fun being interviewed on a podcast. And you might be a writer because you don't like speaking and you don't like being on video, but a good host will draw the good stuff out of you. So make sure you've listened to a few episodes before you approach someone so you know their style and whether it will resonate with you. But podcasts are really, really hot at the moment. And some of them have got many, many thousands of listeners each week. So you can look at the comments on the podcast. You can give people a way to connect with you, to give you the feedback. This is how you get the market research. But also you can ask for a recording of the podcast. You can have it on your website. And this is then instant marketing. Talk during the podcast about your book, about how you're going to be writing about it. It's a brilliant way of engaging people who are going to be hungry readers to build your tribe. Now, if your message excites you, you owe it to the world to share it in the way that uniquely you can. Yeah. It's so easy to get stuck in but so many books have been written on this. And I just don't really have time. They're all excuses. If your heart gets excited at the idea of publishing a book, it means the book is ready to be published. So, number 17, this is another way that you can get inside people's heads. Look at one of the tiny aspects of a problem that people have with the topic you want to write about. That sounds desperately vague, but there are so many different topics watching this webinar at the moment. Create some kind of an opt-in or a bonus on your website. So, for example, if you wanted to write about inner critic, you might have an opt-in that's 5 ways you can deal with imposter syndrome. So it's one aspect of inner critic, or 5 ways you can press pause on a negative thought. Have it so that people can actually sign up for your newsletter, they get the opt-in, but also make it something that's got a place they can comment. So either there's comments on the page that they download it from, or you take them to Facebook or somewhere and get them to comment. So this is how you get it two-way. So firstly, having them sign up means that, hey, they're extremely warm leads to buy your book. Yeah, and you really need to be cultivating that relationship. And they're also probably people who would talk about it. They're really looking for information on what you're going to be writing about. 2, by bringing them back with discussion topics. And if you're doing something like a PDF, you can have live links to discussion topics in Facebook. If it's something like a meditation or an audio, you can have comments on the page they download it from. Ask them questions within the opt-in, and it becomes free market research. And by replying to those questions, you're starting to build the relationship that means they're much more likely to want to work with you. Number 18, this one again takes a bit more effort, but I have found it hugely successful, is find online summits in your field and get to present on one. It doesn't matter if it's a paid one or a free one, just make sure it's somebody who's got credibility, authenticity, who's not a slime ball, and who's going to treat you well. Show up, present. There's likely to be hundreds, if not thousands of people who are potential readers of your book there. And where you can get the market research from this is you present something, but you also, there's normally some kind of a group or a forum that goes with the summit. Become somebody really, really supportive in that group. So you're adding huge value, but also really read the comments, because people will tell you during a summit what their big issues are, what their questions are, where they're stuck. Look at the words they're using. Look at the topics where you get everybody raising their hand going, me too. Yeah, this is free market research. It's also a chance for you to help people solve those problems so you can test what works and what doesn't, what they understand, what needs more clarification. So you can use things like this to really hone your message and make it super valuable. I had an experience, I think it was last year, time runs so fast, of a summit I did, and I was the final presenter. And sometimes that one's a bit daunting. But what I did is I deliberately didn't watch the other presentations. I looked at the comments in the Facebook groups. If you watch the other presentations, it kind of comparisonitis does overdrive. But I looked at the comments in the Facebook group to see what had been missing from the other ones. And I made sure that we got to cover that in mind so that we had a complete package between all of the presenters on the summit. But it also taught me so much about where people were stuck, what they found easy, so I didn't waste too much time on that, and the bits that I might not have guessed they found hard. So getting in there to present on a summit is an incredibly useful way of connecting with people who would love to read your book. Then if you're feeling like you're really in this for the long haul and you're serious about the book, is set up your own podcast on your book or topic. And you don't have to podcast forever. And it doesn't have to be hard. If you've got questions, come and join me over at Dare to Dream Bigger on Facebook and ask me your podcasting questions. You might just do a 10-week series and ask people questions. Give them a link to an easy to remember URL to come and comment and let you know. 2 things. 1, the comments, they'll have listened to your podcast. The comments and the feedback are going to be really, really useful. And 2, it's a way of engaging them and letting them know that your book is coming. When you're ready, you can do pre-sales. In the meantime, make sure you're getting my newsletter. I really want to be able to share the book with you so you can find out when it's launching, join the launch party, whatever. Yeah. And then this one takes a bit more courage, but again, it's amazingly simple to do, is get onto local or national or internet radio or TV if you're in the mood. Pitch a producer. If you really feel passionate about your topic and you're quite a long way through the book writing process, maybe you could offer to host a phone-in. You know the kind of stuff that your customers listen to. Go and find out, get interviewed, host a phone-in, make it a 2-way discussion. Make sure you're allowed to tell them how to connect with you if they've got questions. This is the market research. Tell them the book is coming if that's where you're ready for. And with internet radio, they're always looking for good speakers who can articulate their message with passion, with excitement, who want to make a difference. You'll be amazed. If you feel passionate, you will inspire the producer. Make sure you know their program well, so you're pitching at the right level, get a hook. But it's an incredibly useful way to reach a new audience if you feel the audience you've been talking to so far is feeling a bit saturated. So I'd love to know over at the Dare to Dream Bigger group, if you're on the replay, in the comments right now, how might these help with your marketing? We've gone through quite a lot so far, and it is a whistle-stop tour, but which of these might you play with? I'd really love to hear from you. And remember, at each stage of all of these ideas, give them an easy way to get in touch, either to give you the feedback or to start building that relationship so that they might want to buy your book. So back to PowerPoint. Oh no, I need to press this button. The joys of being live. There we go. Cool. So 3, this is the stuff that means you're proving you mean business. In fact, we've just done those. I love being live. Please laugh with me. Okay, so the diving in is showing that you mean it with your book. Let me just check where we're up to. There you go. Diving in is showing that you mean it with your book. The ones that took a bit more effort there, they were the presenting in an online summit. They were the free opt-in, because that takes a bit of thinking about. They were setting up your own podcast, and they were getting onto local, national, or internet radio. So my nana used to say, there's nought so queer as folk. Yeah. And I would add in, never assume you know what your customers want you to write about. It's so important to ask them. And I have number 21, which is actually my favorite way of finding what people need you to write about, which I will tell you at the end. But the thing is, we're only getting started here. Yeah, we've talked at a very overview level about 20 things so far you could do to find out how your customer ticks, to find out what their problems are, to speak their language, to really build rapport, and to write a book that they will absolutely love. But if you want to dive in more deeply, just imagine how it would feel if you're ready to write your book, but you're feeling you don't have time or you don't know where to start. What would happen if you could just spare a long weekend and get your book written in the next 3 months? A long weekend and an hour a day, 5 days a week. If your heart is calling you, could you spare that? You could do what I did and spend nearly a decade figuring out how to do it. And as I say, I had a pretty big head start because as an NLP trainer and a reformed engineer, I was already well trained in how to create training and how to create a process and that red thread that needed to go through a book. Or you could join me for the 10-week author intensive. Now, this isn't for everybody. In fact, it's not for most people. Most people aren't actually really ready to write their book. It's still just a nice idea. It's something they'll get round to one day, and that is fine. If that's you, that really isn't a problem. Just do what's right for you. But if there's a bit of you going, you know what? Actually, I'm kind of getting ready and I need something to kick me and give me a push. How about joining me at my favorite hotel in the world in Sarıgerme in Turkey for a 5-star all-inclusive deep dive on your book? If you could join me for 3 days, and I'm running this twice this year, it will make the huge difference, and it means your book could be out there in the next 3 months. Those are the dates at the moment, the 20th to 22nd of May and the 16th to 18th of October this year. By the end of the 3 days, we're going to be in a beautiful 5-star Hilton hotel on the beach in Sarıgerme, which is a beautifully safe and friendly part of Turkey. And we're going to do deep dive exercises, really getting into the nitty-gritty of what does your book need to be on? What is the big message your heart's calling you to get out there? What do your customers dream of you writing about? What's going to magnetize them? By the end of the 3 days, you're going to have total clarity on what your book is. You're going to have a connection with your customers at a very deep level and an action plan to deepen that further. You're going to have confidence that you can do this and that people are going to want to buy it. And you're going to have a marketing plan and a tribe building plan and a get your book going viral plan that will make sure that happens. You're going to feel inspired. It's going to spark your creativity. I love going to this place. The staff there are so friendly. It is all inclusive, so everything's included, unless you want really posh drinks. But everything, ice cream, wine, beer, coffee, even the mini bar is included. You are held. You're outside of your day-to-day. You are free to put the to-do list and the worries to one side. And for 3 days, I would guide you through in a small group of like-minded entrepreneurs how to get all of this done. And you'll have commitment because we're going to do stuff that helps you really commit to creating your book. All that leaves you to do when you leave Turkey is completion. And to help make sure you do that bit, there's 10 weeks of support afterwards. There's a fortnightly live Q&A where you can get answers to your questions. You can share in the group. There's a secret Facebook group that nobody can see for full accountability. By the end of that 10 weeks, you'll have done the majority of your book. Or if you want to get published by a publishing company, the ideal point to pitch them is actually at the end of the 3 days. I've been working with publishers on creating this course, looking at the blocks, looking at the most common problems they face with their authors so that we can make sure we get past them. By the end of the 3 days, your book is going to be in a perfect place to pitch a publisher and really get them excited. So if you're scared of rejection, you'll be doing so much more. You've gone the extra mile. You will be their dream author. If you want to self-publish, I've got full guides to help you do that instead too. If that excites you, and I know it's not for everybody, but if it does, you can join us by clicking a link and scheduling a chat with me. As I say, this is not for everyone, and I want to make sure that there should be a link on your screen now. if you're watching live. If not, it'll be below the replay. I want to make sure that everybody who's there is really serious about doing their book and excited about doing their book. This is not for window shoppers. And if you join me for the May one, if you sign up before the 22nd of April, there are all sorts of bonuses. You get my imposter syndrome course, my inner critic course, my time masterclass, how to make more time, how to find the time to write your book. Gorgeous comfort zone busting masterclass, one on dealing with limiting beliefs. And even if you want to calm down and really get focused and have clarity, my 28-day meditation challenge course. And if you join me before the 22nd of April, I'm even going to give you a one-to-one mentoring session. Plus, there's an early bird price for people who sign up by then. And after that, it goes up to full price. I don't want to say any more about that right now because I know not everybody's in for it. But if you are even a little bit excited, click the button to book the Skype chat. If you're on the replay, you can find it at authorintensive.biz. That's authorintensive.biz. So moving on to number 4, some top tips and insider secrets. These are from the world of professional market research. So there you go. I've said already, make sure you're talking to your target audience. It's so easy to get caught in a discussion with somebody who's got a strong opinion, but really they're not the person you want to write for. Make sure you can tell the difference. For social media, it's 1 question at a time. For surveys, it's 3 to 5. You can push it to 10 if people are really keen. To get the best results, ask open-ended questions, not yes-nos. You have to ask a lot more yes-no questions. You're not going to be getting thousands of responses. So having open-ended questions will give you so much more information. And then you'll also be able to hear the language that people are using, because you might be such an expert in your field that you're using jargon that wouldn't resonate for them in the book. In the survey answers, they'll tell you the words that you need to use so that they feel like they've got a close and trusted friend talking to them instead of somebody talking down to them. They'll give you all of this information in open-ended question answers. And try not to lead them. It's really easy to be fixed on a particular hypothesis. It's worth getting a few people to try out your questions first and use their words. Then, as I said, make sure with every one of these interactions, there's a way for them to connect with you and maybe even pre-order the book. Then for number 21, this is my favorite technique, and I'm guessing, because you're here, that it might resonate for you too, okay? Number 21, host a webinar. Yeah. If you are passionate about your topic and you're comfortable being on camera, host a webinar. You would be amazed at how much you can learn from people when you host a webinar. And if you do something like we did here today with having a survey after the sign up, I meant it genuinely. Tell me what your questions are. Tell me what, those questions that's about 20% of people answered, which is fantastic response rate. They really helped me make sure I was covering the topics that are needed. And every time I do something like that, the stuff that comes up that I wouldn't have dreamt of. It's so long since I was standing in the shoes of somebody who didn't know how to do this, that sometimes it's easy to forget steps that to me feel like second nature. Host a webinar, run a survey. You'll learn so much from interacting with people before the webinar, during, and then afterwards. And you can use Google Hangouts. There are other things that are free. You can use high-end paid stuff, but just host a webinar. It doesn't have to be a long one. Pick an aspect of your topic, a problem you want to solve, take people through the process. Then something I do is I have a lovely lady called Tina Pham, who is fantastic. That's Tina, Pham. Please don't all use her because I need her to have space for me. She transcribes my webinars. So I can then go through them, compare them to the comments, and I can say, actually that's a hot topic. I need to write about that. So hosting a webinar is my tip number 21. And going back to the final slides. There we go. So your job is to be a translator and walk once again in a beginner's shoes. It's so important to walk in the beginner's shoes when you're writing your book. By the time they've finished reading your book, they might well be masters of what you're teaching, but you need to start from where they're at, not where you are. And that is the biggest challenge that you face. These 21 ideas help you to get back in their shoes in a way that will resonate with them, in a way that will excite them, and in a way that means they're much more likely to be excited when you publish your book, and you will have started building that relationship with them. So I'm hoping I've fulfilled my promise today. I'm hoping I've shown you ways you can figure out what your dream customers would love you to write about. And I hope I've shown you ways that this can help you to build your tribe of hungry readers even before you write your book. They can get on your newsletter. You could set up a Facebook group with something that's common to your dream readers. Get them in there, get them engaged, get them building relationship. If LinkedIn is more your thing and they're more business owners, start building a group, join in with other groups, start building the relationship, and become the most interesting person in there by being the best listener. Now, I can imagine some of you are objecting, saying, oh my God, but some of this stuff does take time. Well, it does. And you're going to spend hundreds of hours writing your book, most likely. So surely a few hours of research are worth it. The knock-on benefits of this are creating a book they'll love and knowing how to position it to them in the sales materials and in your marketing. It's really worth the investment, and all of this stuff is free. So I'd love to hear from you. What's your personal action plan? Which of today's ideas would you love to apply? When are you going to do it, and how are you going to hold yourself accountable? Because today's choices create your tomorrows. Your book is not going to write itself. If you've got to this point and you're thinking, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not that excited about writing my book. Maybe, it'll wait for another year or 10, fine. But if your heart is calling you to write your book, which of today's ideas would you love to apply? What are you going to do about it? And how will you hold yourself accountable? I would really love to hear from you on this, live or via the comments or over at Dare to Dream Bigger on Facebook. And my next masterclass on this is 5 reasons why your dream customers and your bank manager wish you would write your book, and how to avoid the #1 mistake that means most New York Times bestselling authors are broke. There are some simple things you can do in your book that allow it to grow your business. And they're really simple mindset shifts. So many people are not doing them, but actually it will mean that the customers love you even more. So I hope you found it useful for today. If you've got any questions, I'm going to be hanging out over at our Dare to Dream Bigger Facebook group for the next half hour or so. If you've got any feedback, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I hope that's helped, and I can't wait to hear what your book is going to be about. Have an amazing week. I will see you next week if you're interested in the next masterclass.